It's now time to talk about the most important part of any motorbike. Anyone can put an aftermarket can on for a few horsepower or try and save some weight around the bike, but if you don't have your brakes looked after or working properly, there's not much point of going out there as it won't last for long. So here are the blue spot calipers I was talking about that I was going to replace. These are the ones that would have originally come on a Mark 1 R1. We're going to have a look at the pistons, make sure they're free and they move. I've even bought myself a new sealing kit for the pistons and some new bleeding nipples and some banjos for the hoses, just to make sure we've got fully sorted tip-top brakes. The first thing I need to do is remove the pads. So I've got to remove this pin in the middle. So it's got two retaining clips. And then you should be able to push this pin out. There we go, just get rid of that. And the pads should just lift out. And that exposes the pistons we need to have a look at. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my air hose and put it into the part where the brake line goes in to simulate pressure and see if these pistons actually move. There you go. Wow, all four moved. That's perfect. Now, if you've got a piston stuck, there is a way of getting them out. You can simply buy one of these, a piston removal tool. What this one does, it's quite clever. It's got a little ratchet system. As you tighten up the nut on the back, it makes the head splay out, which will grip the caliper. That's the theory anyway, and it's any excuse to use a new tool because I've only just bought this myself. So we'll tighten this in here and see if it wants to grip the piston to come out. Might need a spanner to get it to really grip. There we are, our piston is free. Slacken the tool off. So now that the pistons are removed, it's a job of removing the seals. So what you've got is a thick seal here at the back and then one right at the front. It's so hard to see on camera, but with a handy pick, we'll try and flick them out. There's one. And there's the second one. That was good fishing, that. I've just got to do that to all calipers now. And getting the seals in is just the opposite of taking them out. Just take your time, fat one in first at the back, and just try and push them in. Once the seals are all fitted, it's now simply just a case of greasing up the pistons and putting them back into the caliper. With the calipers refurbished, it's time to replace the old ones. Now, there's no easy way to do this. It is a messy job. So it's gloves on. Make sure you've got a bucket to catch all that fluid. I've also removed my front wheel because I don't want that fluid anywhere near my tyres. It is literally just a case now of removing the hose from the caliper and letting that fluid drain into this bowl. Now, I've put the calipers back onto the fork so they're captive. They can't move around. Last thing I want to do is undo the hose and then have a caliper floating around in my hand and just getting oil everywhere. So I'm going to try and do this as cleanly as possible, but it is a bit of a mess. Right, let's see how tight this is then, shall we? Oh, that was tight. All right, so let's see if we can drain this into the bowl as neat as possible. Fluid's already dripping, trying to catch that as I'm undoing it. There we go. Right, just do the other side and then let it drain. Now that the calipers are fully finished and refurbished, I can simply fit them to the bike. Now, you might think I've jumped the gun putting the calipers back on without the wheel or the discs, but instead of having the wheel there and the potential for when I'm bleeding to get fluid everywhere, I'm actually going to put a couple of wedges inside the calipers so that when I bleed them, I don't get fluid anywhere near the tyre. It's finally time to bleed the brakes. So what you need is the correct size spanner for your nipple. Put that on. A nice bit of tube that's a snug fit over the nipple. And then you just apply brake pressure. And when you've got it fully closed, open it up to get rid of air, close the nipple before you release the brake. If you release the brake before you've closed the nipple, air will just get sucked straight back in and you're back to square one. With the wheels off the bike so I could do the calipers, I thought while I'm here I'll take the discs off, give them a good wash, and I've scuffed the paint off with a scotch pad, and what I'll do is I'll put a deck of cards around the outside protecting the tyre from the spray paint, go around it with a liquor gloss black, and we'll get these looking brand new on the cheap. And there you have it. For the price of a deck of cards and a can of paint, you can have these wheels looking lovely and refurbished. Now this is something you can tackle at home on a Sunday and it will really lift the appearance of your bike. It really will. I'm really happy with these. They're going to look stunning when they're on. With the brakes sorted, I can now move on to the next task, and that's sorting out the controls on the bike. I've got cheap grips, anodized brake levers which aren't even matched, and I've also got these fake carbon lever guards that I want to get rid of. So we'll spruce this up and have it looking how it left the factory. When it comes to changing grips, they are on very tight because the last thing you want to do is for those to move on the handlebars when you're riding. What I like to do is to get a thin screwdriver, place it between the grip and the tube, and just wiggle it around to free it off some space. And then what I also like to do is get some WD-40 and just spray it in between the two. And then hopefully that will help it slide off. And that is the controls sorted, and I hope you agree it looks much better now it's got its standard levers, grips and end weights. I've even changed the red anodized cap on the brake reservoir for a standard one, and I hope you agree it looks much tidier now. We've finally made it. We've got to the last mechanical thing to do to this bike, and that is fit a brand new chain. I've already fitted new sprockets. I've gone back to the original gearing, which is a 16 tooth front and a 43 tooth rear. So I've fitted those already, and now I'll show you how to fit the chain. Firstly, screw the chain adjustment screw all the way in to allow you to push the wheel fully forward. When you're ready to fit the link, don't forget to grease it and put the O-rings provided on. Next, I'll use my fitment kit to get the chain fitted. So the first part of the kit will simply place over the link, and it'll press the link over the joint. And then once I've done that, I then use the ball bearing, which goes over the link and will then splay out each side of the link to seal the chain. We have finally made it. Everything that needs to be done on this bike mechanically has been changed, swapped, fixed, sprayed, whatever it needed to be the best it can be, and all done in this garage barring a few aluminium welds. I'm really happy with how this bike's turning out now, but it's time for the most important part of any bike, and that's the first impression. So that's how the fairings look. Now, if you remember when we started this a few episodes ago, so if you're still watching this now, thank you so much and I hope you're enjoying it. I didn't know whether to go down the route of the Chinese copies that you just bolt on, or try and get the actual fairings, Yamaha official fairings, and see what I can do with them. Well, fate intervened on this one. But firstly, I'd like to talk a little bit about the biking community because of this. The biking community as a rule is fantastic. You guys, we all look out for each other. If there's a bike stranded on the side of the road, a biker will always stop. It's just a great network of people to be involved with. But unfortunately, there's always one that will ruin it for everybody. Now, I've been buying parts online for years and I've never been caught out before. But for this bike, because I needed so much and it's a specialist bike, I knew what I wanted. I joined the Facebook forum pages, and somebody on there was advertising they had a full bike, any part you wanted you could have. I messaged him, the prices seemed right, the guy seemed nice. I paid him through PayPal, friends and family, and that's the important part. I paid him £60 and nothing happened, and as soon as I quizzed him as to where the package was, he blocked me on Facebook so I couldn't contact him, and I was told by PayPal, because I used him as a trusted person, i.e. a friend or family member, there's no refund, not an easy way of getting a refund anyway. So I took that on the chin, but karma did me proud really, and I do believe in karma. A friend of a friend that my brother knows, so thank you Baz, and his friend Gareth, he has a fully sorted 1999 R1 in red and black, like this will be when it's finished, red, white and black. And he had a spare set of panels in case he ever fancied doing a track day, which he didn't get round to doing. But when he heard what I was doing, he said I could have the panels he didn't need anymore. What a lovely man. So I have not only the right year panels, but also the right colours. So all I need to do with these is take off the stickers, scuff up the layer of paint, get them sprayed so they're looking as good as they can be. And we're away to a winner there, and I'm so chuffed with that. Nobody said this bit was fun, did they? So I've removed the stickers with the heat gun, used a bit of plastic to scrape them off, and now I'm using some 400 grit paper just to rough up the surface ready for prime. So I've been busy and I've done all the primer, I sanded that back, and then I've sprayed on a few coats of the top coat colour. Now I've got quite a nice effect, but if you look closely you can see there's a bit of ripple in the finish. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to sand it back with wet and dry paper. I'm going to soak it in water and use some 1200 grit, get it nice and smooth for its last layer of paint, and hopefully it's just a lacquer to finish it. And as you can see, the hardest part in your own garage is finding the space to keep stuff. I find that's the best solution to stop putting things down and scratching them, is to keep them hung up out the way. So all my panels are now sprayed and prepped ready for lacquer. Now I've bought myself a nice posh 2K lacquer. Now what you need to do with this is remember to pull off the back, and there's a ring. You thread the ring through the little hole at the bottom, give it a pull, spin it 360 degrees, and that releases the hardener. That's what makes it the 2K. There's two parts to it, a hardener and a lacquer. Shake it up and you spray it on, and I'll show you how to do that soon. And that will give these panels a real nice shine. That's what it does. It gives it a nice depth of shine that you can sand back. So it's back into the makeshift spray booth for the last part of the job. Once the lacquer had dried, what I've done to get this lovely, shiny, smooth finish with my panels is I used a stiff waffle pad and a scratch remover, and I did that by hand, doing circular motions. And then when I'd done that, I went over the top with a soft waffle pad and a swirl remover, and I did that by hand as well. And with those two combined with a nice finish with the lacquer, I've got a fantastic looking panel here that's ready for stickers, and then the bike is finished. So when fitting decals, firstly, know where you want it to go, make sure the surface is clean. We'll put some soapy water on there, put the transfer onto it, and then we'll use a hairdryer to get rid of the moisture, and that is a decal done.